Jay Stephenson, best-selling author and motivator, starting to help others with his experiences. Jay is a former Australian champion pro wrestler and wants to help others find themselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our first collab. This is the Robin Hood Effect, a chat with Jay. Kangaroos, koalas, Steve Irwin impersonation, all the other stuff that I come out with. But we've got this other lovely lady that I met during the election. Here she is. Lovely to see you. And this is the Chief Disruptor. And we've got a bit of a common goal with regards to superannuation that we've come to have a chat about. Just to give you a bit of a rundown quickly, the Chief Disruptor here is doing, if I don't mind me saying, a PhD in why super is so important to us, the Australian public and community. So I've got my thoughts about it and what I've done, and we've chatted for hours in some ways, and we're looking forward to having a little bit of a chat now. And here we are. Let's get into it.
So, you know, the whole premise of superannuation and pensions has just rested on this idea that everyone owns their own home. And that's just not the case anymore. So that's a really big red flag for me. So I started looking into it thinking, okay, you know, also the casualisation of work, right? So people work on contract and yes, you do get super, but you don't have continuous employment for 30, 40 years. You may have breaks.
Can I ask, can I just put in that one? With regards to the change of work, we're looking at going to casual, what was the big effect on that? Because I mean, anyone would think that you go, okay, work, get some money and all those kind of things. But what is the big thing about, what is the big change with people's employment status?
Casually. Like that's the real problem, right? Not everyone's a public servant. Not everyone's a politician.
Yep.
Lots of people are self-employed, and you know, when you're self-employed, you don't always have the money to set aside for your super. So there will be gaps is my point. And the way super works is on compounding, you know, that money going in regularly, and you know, the interest compounds over time because there's money that's continuously going in for 30 years.
This is Jay here from Journey of a Whitefeather. Now, I had a wonderful chat with the lady that you'll see very, very soon. Her name's Anne-Marie Elias, and she goes under the Chief Disruptor. And would I go into business with her? Absolutely. As a person, everyone can say the best things about anyone, but working with her, her knowledge, her passion for what she does, and the way we connected with regards to the love of humanity is one thing. But if you're looking to work with someone who has the drive to be better, I mean, you could say that again, you could say that against anyone, but you connect on a level that you really have that passion, and this lady does. She's talking about superannuation and the love of humanity and making sure you live your best life. I mean, you can't get any more passionate about that. And she does that on a chat with Jay when she came on. And when we talked about how people needed to live, you could just see there's a massive care there, and that's the kind of person you want to live and work with. And it's a pleasure to have her on the show, and I'll definitely be doing some things in the future. But if you ever want to work with this lady, mate, you got my vote. Number 1, 2, 3, and 4. There you go. It's been Jay from Journey of a Whitefeather. I'll let you go. The actual benefits of superannuation, I'm going to go straight out and say, yes, I've got super. Yes, I've gone self-managed. And the reason why I did that is I want to control of what I wanted to do. That's simple as that. But the other thing was, and Annie and I have talked about this, is about the mindset I've got is about retirement, about making sure I have enough money for retirement. So the money that I've got, I mean, I'm trying to invest a lot better, and not to go and do this quick fix. Let's make 700,000 in one day. It's not going to happen.
No.
But we're talking in long-term commodities like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. That's what I've gone for myself personally. So that's a big thing for me. So what's your thoughts on that? Obviously, obviously the social housing, we'll talk about that in a minute. But what are your thoughts for someone on this live who is, I reckon, look, I'm going to be blunt here and say 70% of people got no idea what the hell's going on with their super.
No, they don't.
I'm probably being generous, but you've got 70% of people got no idea what to do with their money and all those kind of things. What do you say to them, and what is your opinions of the current state of superannuation? And because I was thinking, yeah,
I think it's been a disaster. I think they built it up to be the holy grail, and globally we are looked at, oh, look, Australia has compulsory super. But compulsory super only works if you have a permanent job, basically. If you have a continuous job for 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
Yep.
And it doesn't work in a gig economy, right? So if you talk to all the people that are working in gig economy, how many of them really are putting however much it is, $1,000 a year towards their super or whatever?
Yep.
If I had my time again, and you know, it's difficult because I was a single mum, so I was always like trying to keep the money that I was earning, and I didn't, you know, invest so much in my super. But if I had my time again, you know, and you think like if you're in your 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
you know, an extra $100, you know, a year or a couple of months or whatever is going to make a difference over the next 30 years.
Absolutely, it will.
Right? If you're in your 50s and 60s, you should be looking into it and really thinking about what the hell it's doing, because the median super, and I think it's been updated, I don't know what the update is, but the median super last year for a man at 60 was $204,000, and for a woman at 60
He's not going to live off that.
$140,000.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
And if you think you need 600,000 to 700,000 as a single, you don't need double that as a couple, because, you know, couples have got economies of scale. But like, you do need a lot more than what we actually end up with, right? And who is this affecting? Freelancers. It's affecting people in low incomes, people that have earned like, you know, $50,000 a year their whole life, or $30,000 or whatever, are not going to have $700,000 in their super by the time they're 60, no matter what they do. Right? So, you know, it's really hard. And like, I think, you know, if you understand the self-managed super funds, I highly encourage you, you know, to go that way, because I've often thought, like, if you're in a family and you all trust each other and the relationships are good, you should be putting your super together, right? Because if someone's got 100K, someone else has got 300, someone else has got 50K, you're better off putting SMSF and building that wealth together.
How I looked at it when I decided to go self-managed. I said to myself, I have a look at some of the bigger companies. I'm not going to mention any of them because, you know, let's say the bigger companies, okay? Go look them up. Go and write big superannuation companies, all right? This is why I think it's so muddy. I won't say it's a scam, but it's a muddy thing. Have a look at all their sponsorships. Have a look at all their sponsorships, ladies and gentlemen. What are they? How are they making all their money? Because they've got our money in there. Okay, we get our dividends, yes. And as Chief Disruptor said, yes, we need money. But are we allowing people to take control of our money? And this is what I did myself, and I know a lot of other people did. They took control of their money and they pulled it out and invested in themselves. But the mindset of for the future. Because we'll go into the next part, which is a major concern about the housing and cost of living and getting money out for your dental and all that kind of stuff. But what do you think about that, Chief Disruptor?
Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Elias, also known as the Chief Disruptor, and I have had the best pleasure of working with Jay, Journey of a Whitefeather. And, you know, if you need to lift your game in communicating something, here's your man. So I'm really good at certain things, but I'm not really good at marketing or amplifying my message or even being that clear on my message. This guy is the one that can help you get there. I love watching not just the stuff that he puts on TikTok, but the work that he does on YouTube. He's interviewing people from all around the world, and he talks about everything from spirituality right through to the finance system, right through to the global agenda. So he's up on all the important matters, and my bet is that if you need to work with someone that can help you amplify your voice in any of those areas, Jay's your man. Yeah, I think, you know, people just need to think how much time they've got to accumulate whatever. Yep. You know, like if you've got 100K in your super and you're 60 and you need 600K in the next few years, obviously that's not going to happen. But you've just got to, you know, spend the time, because Australia isn't as secure as it used to be. Like there won't be social housing if you don't have a home. Like there are 10-year wait lists now.
Yep.
So it's really concerning. The other thing is, you know, get a club together. Like I think of the book and the movie called The Joy Luck Club, which was a bunch of Chinese migrants that got together and put, I don't know, $100 a month and invested in things together and eventually made decent money because there were like 100 of them doing it. You know, so be creative, think of ways that you can do it in a way that's obviously secure and where you can trust the people that
That's where I was going, yeah.
No, 100%. You have to be, you know, very vigilant about that. The other thing that I've known for years is financial advisors have been encouraging people that have superannuation to game the system and get a part pension. So, you know what I mean? That's also pissing me off because there's so many people drawing a part pension that we can't raise raise the pension to be a proper living pension, right? If that pension was, I don't know, 45, 50K a year,
yep,
that would be reasonable, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, everyone's going to end up on the pension, even people like our generation or my generation, Gen X, who actually had superannuation almost from the start.
So we've gone doom and gloom. I mean, you're not wrong. You are absolutely not wrong. Have a look at what's happening here. We had our chat, and you can check it out on YouTube. Chief Disruptor, hashtag Chief Disruptor, a chat with Jay, and we had a really good in-depth chat about all this. What is your advice, your personal advice with regards to this right now? Though we know the government's not investing in housing. They've come out and said whatever they've said. Okay. They've said they're going to do it. Okay, good luck if you think so. Fantastic. But isn't it time for us to take control of our super? Is it self-managed super funds versus the industry ones? Where do you sit with it?
It depends because I've got Commonwealth Super, so I'm sweet. Like I would be stupid to move my super from Commonwealth Super because it's probably the most secure and the safest.
Okay.
It's only because I was working for, you know, a minister in 1988 and that gave me a defined benefit, right? Yep. So every time I left, I would, you know, build another super fund and then I would go back and put all my money back in there. So that was the most important thing, was to build that because I knew that was going to be my security.
Yeah, but key word for you is build. I mean, let's have a look at it logically. What's happening with regards to people not being aware? That's why I do the Robin Hood effect, as I said, with regards to awareness and critical thinking. People are worried about, you know, they've got families, they're going to put food on the table. As you said, are they changing their...
Right, and that's what I was thinking, right? Like, it's all very easy for me to sit there and say, oh, you know, if I was in my 20s and 30s, I'd put $100 extra a month or every couple of months into my super. But people are hand to mouth now, right? People, even on decent wages, are hand to mouth. So they're not going to have, you know, that $100 to put aside. The other thing I started to notice in my research for this PhD is an intersect of when things go to shit for people is redundancy.
Right? Oh, right. Okay. So explain that one.
Because then you've got no income and you've got no building up of super, and quite often after a redundancy you're working in a lesser capability or job, right? And it used to be that redundancy happened in your 50s, maybe, you know, like mid to late 50s. Now it's mid 40s, and that is like freaking me out, right? Because if you get made redundant, it's so young. Like at mid 40s should be the peak of your career.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
You should be like, that's your home stretch. You got another 20 years to build that wealth and make enough money, you know. So Chrissy, yeah, look, I don't know enough about SMSFs. I know that you can do it with 4 people, and that's why, like, if I were to do it, I would do it with, say, my brothers and maybe my kids, something like that. And, you know, obviously have all these legal situations so that everyone's covered. But, you know, it would be about pooling the smaller amounts of money to make that larger amount. I mean, right, in any case, right, the best thing to do is to, and this is what does my head in, right? I thought that's what super funds were doing, right? You put in your money and you've got say you earn 80 grand, someone else puts in their money and they're earning $500,000 and all that money's in the same super fund and it grows. No, bitch. It's only your little pathetic amount that's growing separately to the person that's making.
Absolutely, it does.
So you know what I mean? It's like that. It's so disappointing because, like I said, the whole idea of compulsory super was to stop everyone ending up on the age pension.
Yep.
Now everyone's going to end up on the age pension. And the people that, fair or not fair, I don't know, but I do have to put it out there, is people that are superannuants that are drawing a part pension when they know they probably shouldn't. Because that's just putting pressure on the system.
How about this one, right? So self-managed, I'll go in with the self-managed one. I've done it by myself, and I just thought to myself, what I've done is I've spoken to Tim Manga, Sam Laurie, and Bishop from Beat the Reset. Now, how they explain self-managed super funds is pretty much simply you get control of your own fund. It's your money, you get control of it. And what they're looking to do what you got to do is set up your own company, which is paid through your super. And this is the mindset. That's Chrissy, yeah. Mindset, where you're going to go. So my mindset is to make more money, what I've got. I've got a good amount of money. Let's make it work for us, okay? So what we did was I spoke to Tim Manga from Beat the Reset, and we've got my supporter, Sam Laurie from Liberty Bullion, who supports a chat with Jay. Thanks very much for that, my friend. We were looking at the dividends of what you do when you invest in gold and silver and Bitcoin. Okay, now they've done all the research. As I said, if you don't believe me, as a Rit's opinion, thanks, mate. Do your own research. Okay, look at these people. Talk to myself. Talk to Chief Disruptor. But basically, what I did, I set up my own super fund through an accountant in South Australia. If you want to know that account, I will basically give it to you as a DM. So I set that up. Excuse me. Excuse me. And then I had to request my money from the super fund that I was with. Yeah, it was good fun. Anyway, because I was taking money away from them because they couldn't use it. That's the way it is. So I took it out and I did some investigating into investments into gold, silver, and Bitcoin, and I've done that myself. Now, to answer your question with regards to self-managed super funds for large amount of money, it depends. It doesn't. In my opinion, this is only my opinion because I've done it. No, it doesn't, because I took out excess of 100 grand and I've invested that, and I know for a fact it's gone up by 35%, and that's not even in 6 months. All right. Now the average interest rate is about 8% or something like that, 4% in the bank. Do the math. Go look up how much gold went up. I know for a fact last year gold went up from 3,200 an ounce. Now it's up to $5,000. So there's a point. So it's basically, as I said, the mindset that both of us have got, Chief Disruptor and myself, is to save and increase our money for our retirement. And that is the most important thing, taking control of it. What's been happening, I think you'll agree with me, Chief Disruptor, is you see these ads, take your money out for a property investment. Probably not there at the moment, in my opinion. Take your money out and do some dental work. I mean, seriously, what kind of world are we living in where we can't actually look after people? This is where it gets into the humanitarian side of things. If you're not wrong, can I get you to butt in there? Oh, you can't wait. Look at, she's getting ready. She's firing up.
No, look, I just think I saw Arnie Ezzy on here. I don't know if she's still there.
She's still here. She's lighting the live. Thanks, Arnie Ezzy.
Yeah, look, I think we've talked about it because I was very firm around the election of the view that you don't touch your super. You would be stupid to do it, especially if you're over a certain age and so forth. And she sort of enlightened me on a couple of other things to think about, which is, but what about the interest that you're paying while you've still got that debt, right? And if you could reduce the debt, then you're paying less interest over time. So I thought, actually, it's not a bad idea. And because property is such a weight and interest rates have just been so awful for so long, it completely just flipped my mind. And I thought, well, given that we're all going to end up on the age pension anyway, you may as well have access to your superannuation to bed down your loan. Like literally, I think it's a really good idea.
Look, I think the most important thing is, ladies and gentlemen, is listening to what we're saying. I mean, at the end of the day, the end goal, which Chief Disruptor is 100% correct, is you've got to save for when you retire. End of story. And that is it, isn't it?
Yeah. We all just have to focus on that. And, I think whatever you can put towards your super is great. Like, even if it's $5 extra a month or whatever, all of that does make a difference. My heart goes out to self-employed, sole traders, freelancers, because I know I barely put super in myself anymore, but those things are important. And especially if you're younger, like the younger you are, the more time you've got to contribute to that. So, I would definitely recommend that you look into it because I think it is important. The other thing is, there's like tens of millions of dollars of lost super. So when you get off this live, the first thing everyone needs to do is go and find lost super because you would be surprised, right? And I've often thought, if you know anyone that's homeless, literally, if you know anyone that's homeless, the likelihood that they've worked is reasonable anywhere. And if they've worked anywhere, they would have superannuation. Right? Like even if it's 10 grand, they would have some level of superannuation and they wouldn't have a clue how to access it. So don't worry about the homeless people, worry about yourself. But I would be going and really trying to have a look at making sure that you've got all your super together.
How do they do that? How do they look? You get a lot of questions from here saying, okay, I might have had multiple jobs. So what is your advice to people to actually say, oh, I'm not 100% sure. How can they go and find that out?
So I think the ATO, I think that's how I found out. The ATO tells you what super funds are there. But there is a website called Find My Lost Super or something like that. I'll look it up in a minute. And, basically you can just put your name and the periods that you've worked. I think it asks you some questions around that. Because it could be that part-time job that you had, 10 years ago that you just don't remember. And Arnie is 1,000% right. Okay, so you can do it through your chosen super fund.
Yep.
So the super fund that you're in, that you've chosen. Also, merge your super. I mean,
absolutely.
Really put it all together. So when I left the Commonwealth, I had a different super. Every time I went back to the Commonwealth, I threw it all back in. All right, because when you don't work in the Commonwealth, you can't put money in Commonwealth super. So, so I can't put any money in it now. And now I have Aware Super. And the reason why I chose Aware Super a few years ago is because they were investing in housing for frontline workers. And I thought ethically, I feel good about doing that. I've got shit all of nothing in that super. And given that I'm 59 years old, I have been waiting for Aware Super to sort of message me and go, if this is everything, you're in trouble. But they don't care. They don't know and they don't care.
That's where
they don't know how many super funds you have, right? They don't know if you've got 4. They don't know if you're married. They don't know if you own a house.
They don't care, let's be honest.
So your super fund is not going to save you.
They're not going to care because they're actually investing your money overseas and doing whatever they want to do with it, having these big parties and all these kind of things. I mean, as I said to you, the big thing, as I said, it's a simple thing. Is I look at all these sporting events and all those kind of things, and I see, hang on a minute, that's that, and those billboards, they cost a fortune too. I go, I guess I could have owned part of that billboard, but it goes back to the actual fact of having some accountability and some awareness. But accountability is basically looking at how much we can't put into our super because we're paying all these extra taxes because they think we should.
No, that's right. I mean, and that's, I don't even want to start talking about taxes because I'll have a meltdown.
We'll do that. Hey, we'll go. I'd love to come on with you because I reckon you're going to let fly. And I would.
Oh my God.
Oh, mate. Oh yeah, I'd love to go.
No, it's so bad. Like I had to ring the ATO today because I got an email from them saying, oh, you haven't paid something or other. And I was on the phone for like an hour and I had paid it, but I hadn't paid the late fee of $69. And I thought, how much time has this taken you and me
God.
Like, and
Minions.
it wasn't that you can email us. No. You have to ring this number.
Oh, yeah, minions. I go, look at that. I've got,
They
hey,
had
look, I've
no
got a
idea
script.
of what I was talking about.
Look, I've got a script. I have to read my script.
I felt so sorry for this poor girl. She's like, where's the reference number? I said, there is no reference number.
Oh, so
Okay, so
we go.
sorry, I just had a look
right.
at finding your lost super, and again, you can do it through your actual super account or contact the ATO.
Okay, simple as that. Very important you do that, ladies and gentlemen, because you don't want to lose your money for starters. But I think it comes down to awareness. As I said to you, Robin Hood effect is awareness. Awareness of your money, awareness of what's happening. Once you wake up and see how much, you go look at your chat, you go look at your pay, you go bang, bang, bang. And as Chief Disruptor did say, she was saying, okay, I'd love to put about $50 or something in the thing, but some people, we can't afford it these days because they're paying, they go, all this stuff, the inflation, all that. At the end of the day, money's going to the government, they're putting our money away, and we're trying to live, which we should be putting it into our super and saving. I mean, any good business owner would do that, wouldn't they? And we are a business, as we are.
Well,
we are a business, if I'm not wrong.
And look, the other thing is, I don't know how people are feeling about housing. Like, obviously now's not the time to buy, but Arnie Ezzy and I have spoken to, have spoken about the idea of, if you've got a property, you should have incentives to put a tiny house on there or, to rent that out or, whatever. I think what they are going to eventually do, because we have the highest under occupancy in the world, people living in large houses on their own, and we've got an aging population. So I think they are going to eventually have an unused bed tax, right? So if you've got a house with 5 bedrooms and you're the only person living in it, you may have to pay a bed tax on 3 of those rooms in the future. So, the other thing would be like people that do have that excess space, rent out a room. It gives you a little bit of an income as well as, providing.
We'll get taxed on it though.
Someone.
We'll get taxed on it.
Yeah, but you're going to be taxed anyway because you're going to
well, you're helping someone. Let's go to the humanitarian side of things. Let's go to the humanitarian and say, look, we're helping others. But look, it shouldn't really get to that. But my thing is with regards to the immigration side, and this is going back onto super, a lot of people are coming into the country and will want to live here, okay? Yeah. And there will be there's going to be a surge because they're pushing the 5% down on houses, so people are going to buy that. People are having babies, extending families without, whatever their thoughts are. Good luck. That's going to happen. So I think being aware and doing these lives and letting people understand that if there's one message that we are going to tell you is be aware of your
Jay
super.
Stephenson, best-selling author and motivator, starting to help others with his experiences. Jay is a former Australian champion pro wrestler and wants to help others find themselves.